You want to see something that's going to blow your mind, or maybe it won't blow your mind. Maybe you'd be like, dude, that's just kind of the way things work. But I'm going to show you anyway, just in case you're not as cynical as I am, and just in case you're not as cynical as I know a few of my other audience members are, Gardenon, for example. Listen to this. This is Joe Biden. This is not a robot. This is not, an automaton. This is Joe Biden, younger, bragging about getting a prosecutor fired. This is Joe Biden's own words. This is not a digital copy of him. This is Joe Biden himself.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others too, convincing that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours. I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
And they put in place somebody who was solid. Now, you heard that from Joe Biden's own words. Again, that was him. That wasn't a robot. That was Joe Biden himself saying that. Washington Post comes out, and this is supposedly from Washington Post. A series of emails obtained by the New York Post were published on Wednesday in a story alleging that Hunter Biden, the son of Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, introduced his father to the top executive at a Ukrainian energy firm, Burisma, and that Biden pushed for the firing of a prosecutor investigating Burisma. However, according to the Washington Post, then Vice President Biden played no role in pressuring Ukraine officials into firing the prosecutor, who was not investigating the energy firm. Not only was Joe Biden not pressuring the prosecutor for that guy to be fired, the guy wasn't even working on the case for Burisma. Now, you heard Joe Biden's own words, and the Washington Post is trying to get you to believe the opposite of that. It didn't take a day. It took like months. But Joe Biden himself said it. Now, is Joe Biden a liar about saying it? Or is Joe Biden, flagrantly run afoul of basically extorting a government to get rid of a prosecutor for billions of dollars or $1 billion that it needed and required to sustain itself? Yeah, it's extortion. He basically got the guy fired. Now, the issue here is like I said, that's extortion. We don't particularly like that. And supposedly Donald Trump was impeached for that. But on top of that, Biden kept saying he never talked to Hunter, his kid, who was working at that firm in the Ukraine, about matters pertaining to the firm. Now, understand what we're saying here. Let's go back for a moment. Joe Biden becomes viceroy of the Ukraine, meaning he's interacting with members of the Ukraine, is even sitting in on their meetings, helped chose the government of the Ukraine, and held their life in his hands to some degree in regards to the influence that he could wield. He was basically the front person for the Ukraine. At the exact same time, you had his kid who was working at Burisma, a corrupt company in the Ukraine. And they said when you add corrupt on a company that's in Ukraine, it has to be uber corrupt because basically corruption is just the lifeblood in the way that their system works. He gets to be a board member. How? He has no experience in oil and gas, nor does he have any experience in the Ukraine. Rational human being looks at that and says, it's influence peddling. They put him on the board because they wanted influence to his dad. He didn't even have to be in the Ukraine, if I'm not mistaken. 80,000, from 50 to 80,000, depending on who you talk to, a month. Now, Biden said there was no connection between my son this company and me. We never talked about it. Right here. Even mainstream media realizes this doesn't smell right.
You that there's a certain irony here that the president is accused of and has acknowledged wanting to get information about your son Hunter and his dealings with Ukraine, and this process of impeachment has ensured that everyone knows about Hunter's dealings with Ukraine.
That's a good thing, and no one's found anything wrong with his dealings with Ukraine except they say it sets a bad image.
Would you agree that it sets a bad image?
And my son said that.
Do you think it was wrong for him to take that position?
No.
Knowing that it was really because that company wanted access to you?
Well, that's not true. You're saying things you do not know what you're talking about. No one said that. Who said that?
That's just it. Nobody has to say it. It's what rational human beings think when a man has no experience and knows nothing about the country and is given a job making that much money with his dad as the viceroy of that country. The prosecutor was supposedly about to look into Burisma. And the catch becomes, well, one, is it true that Joe Biden never talked to his son about working at Burisma? That would be weird, I would think. He's on the board of a company in another country that he's the viceroy of, and supposedly they never talked about it. Well, emails have surfaced. Emails have surfaced, almost literally, showing that he did give Joe Biden a heads up. And I'll just read it. This email, it says, let's see, basically a laptop was brought in and these emails was on the laptop. And I want to go into the weird scenario where this ended up in the hands of the New York Post, and where the New York Post is right now being censored on Twitter and Facebook because of the story. But right here, it says, let's see, I just want to read the letter. Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to DC and giving me the opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together. It's really an honor and a pleasure. The email reads. Now, that's a pleasant email. Who is this from? This email is from Vadim Postarsky, an advisor on the board of Burisma. Now, it makes logical sense that if your kid is on the board of an energy company that is a major energy company in a country to which you are the viceroy, that at some point it may come up in conversation. I don't believe for a moment that this influence peddling didn't, was for no ends. Right here. Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me. So that at the very least, that's the pretext of the basis that these two of these groupings met. You can't argue that you never had a conversation with your kid about Burisma if your kid introduced you to Burisma, and if this email is legit and it is basically putting you two together, then you just got caught in a lie. The lie gets worse. When you get down to this part, you get into the influence peddling in and of itself, where he's using his influence with his dad to get help. An earlier email from 2014 also shows Postarsky, reportedly Burisma's #3 executive, asking Hunter for advice on how you could use your influence on the company's behalf. Now, right here, here's another part. Less than 8 months after Postarsky thanks Hunter Biden for the introduction to his dad, the vice president admittedly pressured Ukraine President Petro Poroshenko and Prime Minister Anarsy Yatsenyuk into getting rid of prosecutor Viktor Shokin, threatening to withhold $1 billion. Right, that was the video that you guys just heard. Now, here's the other part. Shokin, at the time of his firing in March 2016, he made specific plans to investigate Burisma that included interrogations and other crime investigation procedures into members in the executive board, included Hunter Biden. Joe Biden has insisted that the U.S. wanted Shokin removed over corruption concerns, which were shared by the European Union. Meanwhile, an email dated May 12, 2014, shortly after Hunter Biden joined the Burisma board, shows Brzezowski attempting to get him to use his political leverage to help the company. And right here, Brzezowski said that the representatives of the new authorities in power tend to be quite aggressively approaching NZ unofficially with an aim to obtain cash from him. NZ is the owner of the company. That's the suspicion. When the alleged shakedown failed, they proceeded with concrete actions in the form of one of the pretrial proceedings. Brzezowski wrote, "We urgently need your advice on how you could use your influence to convey a message or signal, etc., to stop what we consider to be politically motivated actions," he said. Hunter Biden responded with saying he was with Archer in Doha, Qatar, and asked for more information. Who is ultimately behind these attacks on the company? Who is the current interim government? Could put an end to such attacks, he added. Now, understand what's happening here. Hunter Biden introduces dad to an exec, or at the very least to a counselor or somebody who is a representative for the company itself, and eventually an executive. Biden, with this relationship intact, who's now a viceroy of the Ukraine, his son is basically, you had a situation where Hunter Biden did introduce his dad, and on top of introducing his dad, the company did reach out to Hunter Biden to see if he could use his influence, which was his real job. And based on communications, the result did take place where the prosecutor lost his job. The interesting thing here is, the protections that Facebook is trying to throw their body on for Joe Biden, or Twitter is trying to throw their body for Joe Biden, but also how all of this came about. And I know this was a really long intro, and I'm going to cut part of this, but how this came about is as fascinating as the documents themselves. And yes, they would have to be validated. Joe Biden's response seems like an affirmation more than a denial. Basically, I had no scheduled visits during that time for that. Meaning, I don't have anything on my schedule for that. Nobody asked you about your official schedule. You wouldn't put that on your official schedule, I don't think. But that's a weak denial. And I would even make the point it's almost an affirmation. But the case and how this was found, how they got their hands on this, is bizarre. And that's what I want to get into next. Welcome to a long-winded intro soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. I was looking for something specific. I was looking for it was a blurb that I thought I had highlighted that I couldn't necessarily find. But nevertheless, that's basically what took place. The catch is, how did they get their hands on the letter? How did they get their hands on the letter? It was fished out of the water somewhere. So, I shit you not. So, right here. The computer was dropped off at a repair shop in Joe Biden's home state of Delaware in April 2019, according to the store's owner. Basically, somebody bought it in. Now, we don't know who bought it in. The assumption is that it is Biden or Hunter or somebody related to him, but that's not clear. And the catch here is, I would say, this smells like a political operation at work. That's what it smells like, because this is an utterly bizarre story. Other material extracted from the computer includes 12 minutes of video that appears to show Other material extracted from the computer includes a raunchy 12-minute video that appears to show Hunter, who is admittedly struggling with addiction problems, smoking crack while engaged in a sex act with an unidentified woman as well as numerous other sexually explicit images. The customer who bought in the water-damaged MacBook Pro for repair never paid for the service or retrieved a hard drive, which its contents were stored, according to the shop owner, who said he repeatedly tried to contact the client. The shop owner couldn't positively identify the customer as Hunter Biden, but said that the laptop bore a sticker from the Beau Biden Foundation. Now think about this. Think about this. Think about how weird this is. How on an order of magnitude weird this is. So somebody brings in a MacBook, water drenched, apparently to get it fixed. The person leaves. The store owner doesn't get payment for it. The store owner can't identify who gave it to him, meaning he doesn't know who it is. But because it had a Beau Biden sticker on it, he figured that apparently it had to belong to the Biden family. It's phenomenal. The store owner couldn't positively identify the person, right? Photos of the Delaware federal subpoena given to the Post show that both the computer and the hard drive were seized by the FBI in December after the shop owner says he alerted the feds to their existence. If you found a laptop, would you go into it first? That's the first point. Was there no password? Were you able to get around the password? And if you could, what does that say about passwords? And beyond that part, do you think about going to the feds? Like, how did he know who the owner of this laptop was? Like, there's all sorts of weirdness around this particular story. But let's take it on face value for a second. Now, before turning over the gear, the shop owner says he made a copy of the hard drive and gave it to Rudy Giuliani and lawyer Robert Costello. Steve Bannon, former advisor to President Trump, told the Post about the existence of the hard drive in late September, and Giuliani told the Post provided with a copy on Sunday. Less than 8 months after Pawlowski thanks Joe Biden for the introduction to his dad, Vice President Joe Biden, right here. Less than 8 months after Pawlowski thanked Hunter Biden for the introduction to his dad, the then vice president admittedly pressured the Ukraine President Petro Poroshenko, the prime minister, to get rid of General Viktor Shokin by threatening to withhold the $1 billion. That was the line I was looking for earlier. God damn it. But you get the point. Within a short span of time, this took effect. Like I said, the weirder part to this, though, is how all of this came up. Right now, this is apparently in the Senate committee. Right here. Senate committee investigating alleged Hunter Biden drive smoking gun email. A Senate committee is investigating the bombshell cache of documents about Hunter Biden's foreign dealings that was acquired by Delaware company Repairman and exposed Wednesday by the Post. The Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee confirmed it's working with the repairman, whose identity was confirmed by the Post to verify the documents from the hard drive. There are so many red flags about the Biden family trying to cash in on the vice president's position that it could be hard to keep them straight, Committee Chairman Ron Johnson told the Post. Now, Joe Biden is already being investigated. He's not even in office yet. And I'm sorry, this has legs. The Washington Post can try to pretend like there's no there at all, but Joe Biden did not deny that the meeting took place. He just denied that it was on his books. I don't have an official meeting for that day scheduled. So, yeah. But did it happen? I'm not talking about the official meeting. Did it happen? I'm talking about the real actual thing, not what you wrote down or put down in some kind of calendar. And think for yourself. Just think for yourself. Your kid gets a job on one of the boards of a gas company that is monstrously corrupt in the Ukraine. He has no experience in oil and gas. He has no experience in Ukraine. Your dad of that kid, the dad of that kid, is the viceroy of the Ukraine. Do you honestly believe that the conversation of the company will never come up? And do you honestly believe that Joe Biden is so honest and chaste as to admit it if it did? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I also smell something weird in the way that this information came out. This feels like a political operation to me. I could be wrong, but that's what it feels like. Now the catch becomes there are images of Hunter Biden doing crack, and having sex. I don't know why those images are there, and I don't know why those images are there. Let's say it that way. And regardless of why those images are there, the catch becomes: is it true? And if it's true, it is damning. So, they're trying to squash this, and they're trying to kill it at the knees. And Twitter and Facebook have basically tried to eliminate either people's ability to see it or to get access to it. And as you know, at this point, most people's news at this point, if I'm not mistaken, is accumulated through social media. So killing it there puts a kibosh on it, going as it percolates. But if this was any other election with any other person running, this would be brutal. And it would have consequences. But it's Trump. And it's, and because it's Trump and people are terrified of Trump, then this gets scuttled. It doesn't matter as much. All right, guys, I'm going to end this here because I have another show coming up immediately after this. Like, share, of course, subscribe.